Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to Picking Up the Pieces. As the title suggests, we're hot on the trail, okay? What we're going to talk about today is the fact that dear old Prince Magnum, you know, in his so called moments of clarity, what's going on, sis? In our moments of clarity, sometimes you sit there and think of things, no, she didn't. No, she didn't. I haven't heard from my sister in law. Um, uh, Tonight, we're going to talk about, those moments of clarity when you're sitting there thinking, have I done everything to check into everything? Really? I haven't heard anything. Um, we got a cousin, her husband's in the hospital right now, so we're still waiting to hear on the funeral. But that's a whole nother subject. We'll talk about all that later amongst ourselves. I bet they are. Okay, we're gonna kind of talk about tonight uh, about Princess Faye. In the sense of we know that she was involved in drugs. We know she's got mental health issues. We even know that there's self mutilation going on, and all of this I either had to find out through second party. It wasn't third party. It was second party. Basically, like, you knew this was going on, right? No, I didn't know this was going on. Yeah, she was talking about it. And the way everything went down, it seemed like Princess Faye was in trouble. Common sense at this point tells me to check into this, okay? So I just got off the phone with the Deloge Police Department asking questions. And I told him, I said, I know what's going on, Danny. I said, I know that there's only so much. If you guys got a case, or was investigating or anything like that, that, at some point, you guys can't tell me anything. Okay. I said, regardless if I'm the husband or not, there's only so much that you guys can tell me. So, and he said, you completely understand. And see, the Prince Magnum channel has been, um, I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there, breathing in, breathing out. I actually did something today I haven't done in a little while. I did some filming. For me, that's been a minute. What's going on, Chairman? So here's our situation, okay? We've got a woman with all these issues. And again, we're going to lump chemical dependency in with mental illness, okay? Y'all got to understand, okay? Chemical dependency is a form of mental illness, okay? It's a very unusual one. It ranks right up there with some sort of, obsessive compulsive disorder, but it does exist, okay? Chemical dependency is a real thing. You get it, okay? And we talk. We've talked about the whole Stockholm syndrome thing, and we've discussed that. How sometimes with parents that can happen too. You have abusive parents, and you need to stay away from them. You shouldn't be around them. But because of the way that we human beings are programmed, especially here in the United States, we tend to stick around those. What's going on, Jamie? Welcome. Jamie, I was in, yeah, you'd seen I snuck in there and said hello in one of your last streams. I'm going to be probably missing some of that. PTSD. It's a possibility, sis. So, again, when we've talked about Princess Faye and her mental illness and where it really stems from her parents, Oh, thank you so much, Jamie. Um, y'all have to understand that when we're talking about mental illness, yeah. Real quick, Jamie, uh, the young lady talking there, Hannah, that's my little sister. That's my little sister. Okay. So again, we're discussing the fact that, we're dealing with mental illness, we're dealing with addiction, we're dealing with. Actually, sis, I just mostly ignore you. But let's go over a couple of things. Number one, very importantly, again, we're talking chemical dependency, we're talking mental illness, we're talking, serious issues here, including self mutilation, which is an addiction in itself. So now that we've kind of cussed and discussed that, I ignore your orneriness, sis, because I know where you got it from. Our family's full of that. So, being that um, well, I mean, you don't have to cut deep, okay? So, in my, I guess you could say, investigation, I contacted the police department over there by Walmart, okay? And y'all got to understand, all right? Um, the guy that she was getting the drugs from, okay? Guy named, well, there's a lot involved in it, okay? And I know a little bit about it. I don't know enough. I'm not well suited enough to fully discuss the self harming thing. There are some folks that could explain it a whole lot better than me, but yeah, kind of like yeah. Basically, when your body takes on pain, your brain releases an endorphin, a feel good endorphin that lessens the pain a little bit, and some people can become addicted to that. Um, so in this regard, my wife Miranda has been addicted to that human endorphin. So because of this, we have to treat this also as a chemical dependency as well. Yeah, I've heard of people doing that one. The one that's most common is cutting on themselves. That's the one that's most common. Yeah. And so we're dealing with manic depression. We know this already. Now, we know that it was some form of ADHD medication that she was taking. I've heard Adderall from one. I've heard another medication. I can't even remember the name of it. And I'm usually pretty solid when it comes to my medications. But it must be a fairly new one to the market because I'm not super familiar with it. But in a nutshell, Princess Faye is not well. So because of this, I mean the police department that their job is not necessarily to to assess someone's mental health unless it's just that apparent. Okay, like they're going to actually hurt themselves right then and there. It's really not their job. They're not really equipped for that. Their job is to uphold the law, okay, and to protect the people within the means of those laws. So police are really not equipped for dealing with situations like this. However, this guy Will, who was giving her the drugs, we have been able to ascertain, uh, that absolutely. Y'all got to remember, Princess Faye was technically sexually, it depends on where you live, how they might classify it. But when she was 14 years old, y'all got to remember, Princess Faye, she was in the shower, forgot to take a towel. How many times we all done that? Okay, she hollers at her dad to bring her a towel. Okay, he gets the towel, but he makes her come out into the living room so he can see her. Okay, and my wife has always been, mm-hmm, right, sis? But, my wife has always been a more top heavy and a lot more attractive version than her mom. Her mom's not bad looking, okay? But her mom's obviously not well either because her mom actually knows about this and seems to be okay with it. So much so that she was involved in getting Princess Faye, my wife Miranda, to go back to Oregon, okay? Now, regardless of the situation, she is fully aware that my wife has been a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, that she has chemical dependency issues. I'm very sure to some degree. Yeah, schizophrenia is hard to treat. It's very hard to treat. Uh, my mom's mom suffered from it. The grandmother I lost last year suffered from schizophrenia. Um, so, because of this, what he did to Princess Faye, and then continued to make passes at her like he was going to, one day sleep with her, all the way up until she left home at the age of 18 to come to Missouri and live with me. Um, she was already a mental basket case. Oh, the poor thing. I'll keep her in my thoughts and prayers, Chairman. But I hope the doctors are able to really help her because schizophrenia is horrible. So, what I did today was I contacted the local police department over in Deloge, Missouri, and talked to them. I've heard that one too, sis. I've heard that one too. So I contacted them, told them what was going on. And I said, I know you guys are familiar with my channel. I said, because we support law enforcement as often as possible. And I said, and anywhere I can even help with this case. Okay. There you go. That's what's up, sis. So let's run through the bases. The medication that I've seen, we do know to some degree after talking with some of the folks in the mental health industry that it does definitely there's an excellent chance that it's some sort of ADHD medication. We know it's a medication of sorts, and we know it's a prescription medication. So we have a prescription medication that is not over the counter being given to someone who does not have that prescription. So we have someone practicing medicine without a license, giving it to someone without a prescription. We have a person now who does not have a prescription, traveled across state lines. Oh, how cute. Actually, I'm going to explain something to you. Everything that I'm talking about is easily obtained, public information, okay? And if you understand the Freedom of Information Act here in the United States, anybody can look anything up on anybody. So, what I have actually done is I've taken it up to a gray area. So, legally, I am okay. Now, if I was to say that I want everyone, you know, basically asking for someone to inflict harm, then I would be crossing over the line. But if you actually look up your Freedom of Information Act, this is even how we are able to get information on veterans who are committing the crime of stolen valor. Okay, true story. This is how we get that information. Okay, the Freedom of Information Act. So everything I've done is legal. Okay, so I know it's a gray area, but we're talking about someone who's mentally ill, who's now placed themselves into a position that is actually more dangerous than what they were in here. Okay, they were safe here, unless we'll get to that in a moment. They were in trouble with the underworld that does roam the area. We'll get to that in a second. All right. So I discussed this with the police officer, and again, this is public information, okay? Um, and I'm not slandering my wife, okay? We already know, I've been very forward about everything that I know. We don't know to the degree, okay? Evidently, there could even be more to this secret life that we don't know about, all right? We know that she was using marijuana without a prescription, and Missouri is very strict about that. If you do not have a prescription, you are committing. Basically, it's the same as taking a prescription medication. It does classify as a felony, okay? And depending on the amount, it could even be classified as also with the intent to distribute, okay? Thank you, brother. So, what we're actually talking about right now is the fact that, if you will, okay, what we're talking about is the fact that, everything I've said, I've not lied about, okay, but I did contact the police department and asked if there was a warrant for arrest. And because it would have happened possibly in Deloge, it could have even happened with a sheriff, or it could have even happened here in Bonne Terre. Most likely it's going to be Deloge, and Deloge was able to look it up and say, no, we haven't picked her up for anything prior to this. And I said, well, here's what we already know. This is where I know the guy, the apartment complex the dude lives in. I said, I'm already willing to bet, because you guys are over at Walmart so regularly, you already know something that you guys already know stuff that I don't even have, I'm not even privy to. He said, there's an excellent chance of that. Now, that's not to say that, he's saying you're right, and it's not saying that I'm wrong. Okay. We just, he's doing his part, because there's no need for vigilante justice here. Okay. So y'all feel me here? So what are we dealing with? Okay. Well, number one, the pill bottle that I was talking about. Well, you also got to understand that there are certain laws there's certain laws and jurisdictions and things like that that they also have to abide by, because of the fact that, I mean, you don't want any outside interference on a particular case like this. Now, because of the situation, I did was able to give details about what I seen. What's going on, Miss Kelly? I was able to give important information based on what I seen. We're talking a Walmart prescription bottle that did not have a label on it, and had no label on it at any point in time. Why is this important? Well, that means that there's an excellent chance that somebody is carting the medication out of a pharmacy illegally. This needs to get to the police, because people need these medications, okay? People need these medications, and that could be somebody's prescription right there. So we're dealing with this particular situation, or could be. I don't know. Also, we have illegal street, illegal purchases of marijuana. These still have to go through a dispensary. And on top of that, we're also dealing with the fact that it's without a prescription. Again, Missouri treats it as a prescription medication. There's an excellent chance of that. We don't know. Okay? We don't know. And it could even be one of the people just working in the pharmacy. We don't know. Or someone with the keys. That could go up the chain a little bit. Okay? Yeah, it's a very serious crime. So we're now looking into this particular situation. Okay? Which, okay, let me explain to you guys. We have a Walmart prescription bottle without the label. Now, and excuse the terminology, I don't know any junkie that's going to take the time to remove that label with such meticulous effort. Okay? That means it was a clean bottle. No dealer and no pusher, no or junkie is going to be that meticulous with that bottle. That means that that bottle was gotten directly from the pharmacy without a label, which means that the medication could be the same exact way. We don't know. Which now raises a whole lot of questions. Who had the keys possibly for this particular crime? We don't know. So in this entire series of picking up the pieces that were hot on the trail, we may be dealing with something where Princess Faye could have even been in trouble. Yes, she's blaming me for everything, but to some degree, I mean, we had an agreement of sorts, and if there's one thing I know about my wife, she does take her word of honor very seriously. Unless we're dealing with the fact that, addiction just took over that much, or she was in trouble, or all the above. We don't fully know at this point. She could have been in trouble with said pusher. Okay? We don't know. All right? So that is what we're dealing with right now. So obviously the Prince Magnum channel has now offered its services to law enforcement with every tidbit of information that we have available to us. Which means that we're also dealing with the fact that Princess Faye did not leave any hide nor hair of that bottle. I would have seen because I took out all the trash myself. Which also means that she took that prescription medication with her. There's an excellent chance of that, which means that she may have been transporting it across state lines, which means that you are now talking federal offense, and every state she crossed through can now press charges if they so choose. So we are dealing with a very a serious situation, which means that the channel is now offering its services to law enforcement because of this possible crime. Now, I know this is a lot to take in, folks. Again, bear with me. This is a lot to take in. Now, a normal person not under the influence and dealing with the mental health issues that we're talking about would have already said that this is not okay. Yeah, that's a serious felony charge. So because we know of this, good luck trying to fully prove it, but she can be investigated. Okay? Princess Faye can be investigated now. If the police want to, now they can pick her up with this knowledge. They can even issue a warrant for questioning. Basically, she would have to come in, and if they felt that she was involved with this entire drug ring deep enough, they can also place her under charges, and she would have to go to court. Even if it is on circumstantial, it links her to this possible drug ring. I knew that one too. Believe it or not. I actually knew that one. So, I know this sounds like, are you trying to get her into trouble? Absolutely not. Because I even discussed it with the police officer saying, if you guys need to do something like that, I want to be involved in the case because she's not well. As a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, I would consider it an honor and a privilege to try to help my wife get straightened out. And he completely understood. He definitely took down the information that he needed. We're talking about a very respectable officer of the law over in Deloge, at the Deloge Police Department. The corporal was very nice. And let me also say again, the Prince Magnum channel is proud to support law enforcement. Obviously, we support law enforcement so much that any bad police officers, if it comes across our desk and we could do something about it, we will. Okay? Because good police officers should not have to work in that type of environment. We have made that statement numerous times, and we make it again here on this series. So I already said that if they have to pick her up, which they could easily now issue some sort of a warrant for questioning, which means that she would still have to come back. She would have to come back and deal with because obviously the Beaverton, Oregon Police Department's a rinky-dink police department that should lose their charter. I am so sorry. Police officers everywhere, I apologize. When you guys have a law enforcement agency like that has failed the system so poorly that it makes you guys look bad. So we're hot on the trail, trying to dig up any possible links, because if there is a link to her and the underbelly here in the county that I live in, right smack dab in the middle of Missouri, we need to find out, because she could be in a lot of trouble, and eventually they will catch up to her. It always does, folks. If there's one thing that I have learned, our lovely ladies who suffer from chemical dependency, ironically enough, suffer so badly that they will fall down harder than the men. We don't know why that is. It probably has something to do with physiology and the way their bodies are designed. But when they fall into that trap, it is never good. And the places they go and the vulnerability that they experience, my fellow lady chemical dependents out there, alcoholics and addicts everywhere, and even if you identify as a female, I am so sorry that you all experience these horrible, horrible things that comes with chemical dependency. I don't fully understand it, but I am so sorry that you guys do experience these things. And my only hope is that no one ever belittles you for this, because it is a horrible, horrible thing that you all experience. My wife now included in that. And bear in mind, anything that I've told you has either been passed on to me by close friends or my wife Miranda herself. So her father doing that whole thing to her, she told me that. She talked about that. We talked about that a few days before she left. It was already in her head. Okay? Which blows my mind that she would go back to that shit. So that is what we're dealing with. Okay? Lock that into you guys' heads. All right? We're dealing with almost a form of Stockholm syndrome. Which, again, because the way the human mind is designed, I guess you could say, we are dealing with some serious, serious mental health issues. It's going to take years of therapy to get that woman straight. I'm patient. I am a patient man to a degree. Obviously, I'm going to have to continue to take care of me in any manner that I know I can. Obviously, without chemical dependency. But honestly and truthfully, because of my experiences with PTSD, mental illness, and dealing with chemical dependency on my own, having to deal with it myself, I will tell you all, I understand it. Okay, that's a good question. Okay, that's a legitimate question. She took a lot of the evidence with her. I could present screenshots, but it's awfully hard to present screenshots from the individual. Again, we're talking that this is not the first time, okay? This is not the first time that we've dealt with her doing drugs, okay? And I already know about her alcohol use, okay? Okay, I'm fully aware of her alcohol use. And I can only tell you what I've seen, okay? So I understand that's a legitimate question, and I know it's like you gotta, let me put it to you like this. I have no reason to lie. Okay? I have no reason to lie. I've even been forthcoming about my own personal mistakes in all of this. Well, again, I have discussed it. No, it's not aspirin, okay? I know what aspirin looks like. I take aspirin, okay? When I have chest pains, I take aspirin, okay? So I know what that looks like. I know what, bear in mind, okay? I know what prescription medications look like. You have to remember, I had 13 years in the medical field as a CNA, CMT, insulin certification, cross-trained for occupational therapy, specialized in Alzheimer's and dementia, has a chauffeur's driver's license to handle the buses. Well, we've been able to narrow it down to two different medications. In both instances, they're for ADHD. I still have connections within the medical community. Okay, so that's how we were able to ascertain that much information because I'm able to describe the pill. So again, we're back to, you know, when I was sitting there, and it's like everything, you guys got to remember I'm grief stricken, so it takes a minute for everything to recall all the information. But if you go back to certain ones where we talk about this in detail, to some people it might be anything, but you have to remember I've already talked with the professionals, okay, the ones that are still doing this thing. We did our research on it. We were able to actually get all of our information directly from all the websites and everything and was able to narrow it down to a couple of medications. So in that regard, because even, yes, that is possible. That is very possible. I know that's hard to believe, but you have to understand because of the FDA and certain medications that have been approved, that information has to be public, okay? So considering the pharmacy and their sources where they get their medications, all that information is public. So we were able to ascertain that information. So you understand now, this is not some rinky dink, where we're just speculating, okay? We're actually doing serious research here. And what I'm telling you is the research that we have been able to discover, okay? And then based on all of the experience up to and since that point, this is what we're dealing with. Well, okay. Bear in mind, regardless of how you view that, number one, I know what chemical dependency looks like. I'm a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. My sober date is February 7th, 2006. How am I able to rattle that off? Because that's an important date. That was the first day I did not pick up another drink. Or any illegal substance. Now, if it's over the counter or a doctor prescribed it, that's a whole nother ball game. Okay? Yes, I seen her with the pill. I actually asked her about it. If you've been keeping up with the live streams, you would already know that. That's honest to goodness truth. Several times. She had the medication on her desk. That's how I'm able to describe it. And as a matter of fact, unbeknownst to her, I was checking to see how many she was taking. And it was pretty regular. You'd see the bottle go down and go back up. So she was buying. As a matter of fact, to the point where a lot of our bills are now just getting caught up. And I've been the one doing it. Actually, I've been saying that for a while now. Again, keep close track of everything. But it's been before the interview. Because I've been in contact, again, before the interview, before I could even present any information during that interview, I needed more information. I needed to talk to some folks. Okay. So again, I understand where you're coming from, and you almost want to defend her, which leads me, then if you did, then you would know I'd already been talking about this. And again, we're not 100% sure it's Adderall. There's one other possible medication it could be. But both of them are for ADHD, which, it could be an off brand, because, oh, it could be this pill. And, even though, okay, real quick. When, all right, we'll go with a simple over the counter medication. You could go to Walmart right now or any pharmacy and buy over the counter acetaminophen. Okay, now that's the generic name. Well, I had said that there was a lot coming to light. Okay, and a lot more coming to light. And at that time, I was also doing a lot of investigating. The playlist is probably the most important stuff in there. Now, you may have missed it because it could have easily been said in passing, because I was answering a lot of questions too at this time. So it's easy for a lot of stuff to get lost in translation, but it was said. Okay? So bear that in mind. All right? Just tuck that away. We know all of these things because, like I said, we have, reliable sources, including myself, to work with. Okay. Which she's been in trouble, not with the law, but could have gotten in trouble with the law before for drugs before. Okay. Because there was a whole. I found out 2 days later what was going on, how deep it really was. And I had to consult some of the professionals at that point. So once I started talking with the professionals, everything that I seen, at that moment I had to take off the husband cap and I had to put on the MedTech cap. I don't think MedTech's ever had caps. They may have at one time, but that's, neither here nor there. I know, again, it's hard to believe all of this. It's hard to take it in. It's like, that's Princess Faye, No. Juggalo, I will say that I do not believe, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, that I am not wrong on any of this. Okay? I know. You got to remember, she told me the guy that she got the damn drugs from. I also knew that the guy was a damn pot smoker and does not have a prescription for it, which is, again, very illegal in the state of Missouri. So what I'm actually describing, again, is what she's actually telling me. Okay? She actually told me this shit. And then you find out afterwards she was doing the shit too. Okay? With someone that... Because... Now that's a good point. Because the dude's pushing to someone who's chemically dependent, which is very illegal in the state of Missouri as well. There's actually a lot of laws that I've had to actually, for those that don't know, dear old Prince Magnum at one time could have possibly, if I had an interest in it. That's a good point. That's a good point. I'll tell you what. Do yourself a favor. Look up the studies of the side effects for marijuana from the 1990s. There was an actual complete study that's being suppressed right now. That information is also public as well. A little hard to find, but it's there. And you also have to understand there are a lot of people that think that they're doctors and they're not. Okay? When you go into a doctor's office, they have to weigh out everything. That's why they get your vitals, your height, your weight, They check you overall because they need to know that if they have to prescribe you anything, and you're not going to prescribe someone like that marijuana, okay? And if you do, you're going to be getting it from a reputable source like a dispensary. So in that regard, those that are breaking the law, getting it illegally, that is my problem. So that's where I'm angry with it, okay? So you have to understand I'm coming from that side as well, all right? So when I say it that way, there's a reason for it, okay? I understand those that need it, all right? There are those that need it, all right? Period. They need it. Because without it, they're not going to be able to function in life. There's actually a particular story of a gentleman that has a weird bone disease that the only thing that actually helps him with the pain is marijuana. And because of that, if he wasn't getting it, no, the answer is no in this particular case. You also have to remember, while I was still in the medical field, there was times that doctors had to rely on me for my knowledge of medication. Now you're trying to split hairs, okay? You're trying to split hairs at this point. There's a reason why the law still stands that way, okay? There's a reason for it. Go to a doctor's office, period. If you are getting it off the streets, you are committing a federal crime of playing doctor. You cannot do that without a license, period. I would hope Missouri never does that. But also remember, a high society doesn't complain when their rights are being taken away. Don't believe me? Look at Nazi Germany and their uses of methamphetamines. That's just it. Insurance will cover that too now. Insurance companies will cover that now. And she had insurance. So again, you're barking up the wrong tree. Okay? You're talking to someone who worked in the medical field. Okay? You're barking up the wrong tree. So I will ask you, at this point, you are talking to the wrong person. And if you're using it illegally in your state, do bear in mind the police do watch this channel, okay? And they've got more resources than I do. Not at all. It's not my problem, okay? Not at all. I'm just giving you my personal opinion to save you from getting into trouble. What you do is not my problem. You don't pay my bills or sleep next to me, so it's not my problem. Now, if you came to me, actually they do. The police regularly patrol this area to make sure that dear old Prince Magnum's okay. Take that in for a moment. You know what? I'm not going to have this discussion with you. So there you go. I will not have this discussion with you. Thank you, Jamie. You all have to understand, I'm speaking from a medical perspective. There's a reason why. And it's like that a lot of places for good reason. There's a reason for it. So, regardless of your standpoint on it, it's a law for a reason. It does cause problems. It is addictive. Anything's addictive to some degree. Look at me, still smoking tobacco. This is why there are medications that are there for a reason. Everything's addictive to it. I actually met a woman that was addicted to Tylenol. Not a joke. Over the counter Tylenol. So I know what addiction looks like. I know it from personal experience. So you cannot have that conversation with me, especially if you yourself are addicted, because I already know what it looks like. And do bear in mind, Princess Faye was an admitted member of Alcoholics Anonymous herself. I know, because I'm the one that gave her her 2-year coin. I gave her a 1-year coin too. I believe it's safe to say I gave her almost all of her coins as she went through the program, and even helped her get all the way to step 4. So there's good reason for it. And again, this is about saving my wife's life. So anyone who's against that is obviously not in the same boat and wants ill harm to come to her. And on top of that, how do I know you're not involved? Some folks, really, you know. Y'all have to understand, okay, that I'm speaking from personal experience. And everything that I've done, there's either research or I've seen firsthand myself. There's a lot involved in this particular case. So again, we're back to trying to get her home to get her safe. Why in the world would I be doing this otherwise? So I say to all of you out there, it's important. Thank you, Jamie. Some folks, it's like they want to, you can always spot the ones that too are also chemical dependents doing bad things to themselves. You can always spot them. Because they'll try to defend the person who's in that world. Ah, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. No, it is. Why would I be saying it otherwise? You know, technically speaking, he's in here trying to hinder. Dude's in here trying to hinder, you know, um, the process of getting someone help, because he himself may also be suffering from the same exact thing. We don't know. But as I said, I personally don't care. Well, let me rephrase that a little bit better. If they're not sleeping next to me and paying my bills, none of my business what another person does. However, if they ever come up and say, hey, man, I got a problem, we need to talk then it becomes my problem. Absolutely. And that stuff, there's a lot of stuff out there, okay, y'all got to understand, again, I speak from personal experience on it. Every time I try to quit smoking, I get the severe urge to drink. So that's why I continue to smoke. It's very difficult to quit. It's a hard habit to quit. All joking aside, there are people that suffer from so many different types of there are so many addictions out there. It wasn't that long ago over on TikTok, I actually heard of a woman that was in recovery for using Imodium. Imodium was addicted to Imodium, the the anti-diarrheal medication. Not a joke. And I had actually read studies on this as far back as the early 2000s. Early 2001 when I was in a medtech class. Okay. So I'm sorry, 2000. 2000 I was reading on this, okay? which that blew my mind. Okay, that blew my mind. Just blew me away. And I had actually left her a comment saying, I actually remember reading about this early on that this was a possibility. And they couldn't believe it. They were really beside them. You know, the woman was like, "You, when did you read this?" I said, "Back this time, you know, when I was in medtech school." And she's like, "So we even knew something about that as far back as then." I said, "Yeah, that it was a possibility. They discovered it in lab rats." So a lot of stuff, you know. So I mean, we could joke about that all day long. You know, someone, you know, using Imodium to basically get uh, overdoses of Imodium more or less give you the experience like you're taking morphine. It reacts very similar. Um, Not that I want y'all to try that because there comes serious health complications with that, obviously. Um, but it is a thing. Okay, it's very dangerous. Um, you know, there's a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff that a lot of people just don't know. Okay, so addiction is real. It is a form of mental illness, and we are dealing with mental illness. I know what the stuff looks like, and people can get addicted to marijuana. It is possible. There's different ways to look at it, if you will. So be smart. Be smart. I know it's becoming a little bit more culturally acceptable, but also remember, a high society again does not complain when their rights are being taken away. And then let's not forget how we get the illegal stuff into the country. U.S. government helps. Okay, so bear that all in mind. I also know that what's going on, Viable. So I know it's hard for y'all to take in, what we're trying to do here, but we are trying to do the right thing. And I know it's difficult for a lot of y'all to understand, but again, if I didn't care, I wouldn't do it. Jamie, you and Viable need to get to know each other a little bit. Viable's is just an amazing content creator, just like you. I think you two would, if you guys don't know each other, get to know each other. Amazing. The two of you were absolutely amazing. Hmm. Good deal. Good deal. So I'm talking to, you know, okay, good deal. So very good. Very good. Um, so I'm preaching to the choir at this point. So again, we're hot on the trail. We're working with the police department to uncover more than we had before, because obviously, again, I did present the case that I would want to be involved because obviously I don't want my wife in trouble, but I want her to get her help. So I know again this is a little difficult for a lot of y'all to understand, and it's like you really this is a gray area that we've had to cross over into, but you also have to understand when you're dealing with life and death. Sometimes you have to cross some lines. And I know it's hard for a lot of folks to truly understand that. But again, if I didn't care, I wouldn't do it. Okay? That's where we're at on this. So bear that all in mind. Again, I know we're dealing with a lot of tough subjects these days. We've been talking a lot about mental illness for the last few weeks, but it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. Like, yeah, you get it, Jamie. I mean, I know well enough, that you would do the same thing. I know all of you would. All of us guys out there, if we didn't, when we're truly in love, we will go to any lengths to help our other half. our spouse, however you want to term it these days. And a lot of folks sometimes have a hard time understanding that, again, you know, oh, nifty. We're dealing with a lot of mental health issues. But we're also dealing with the fact that, again, if I didn't care, we wouldn't be doing it. You know what I'm saying? But we do care. This is why we've done the interview, which we'll definitely load that to, to the playlist, where we were interviewed by a much larger channel. So that's what's up. At some point, we will try our hand at Save the World again. I'm missing playing with the gang, but in the meantime, it's been difficult. It's been difficult to enjoy the game as much as I did. I will tell you all from the bottom of my heart that it is very, very difficult to enjoy a game that you were streaming when your wife walked out the door. It's very difficult. And just so y'all know, every night I got a picture of the two of us together. I still give her a kiss goodnight. Oh, hate to hear that, brother. I still give her a kiss goodnight and tell her I love her every night. Got her wedding ring right in front of that picture. I haven't given up hope. I'm going to do some things, though, to kind of keep myself sane because I am not equipped anymore to not be romantic. But am I moving on? Am I looking for anybody else? Not at all. But I do need a little companionship every now and again. I have the cats, but they don't talk much. You know what I'm saying? They don't talk a whole lot. I love them to pieces, and it's, when I lay down, I got a big fat cat named Taver that lays next to me, but it's just not the same, It's just not the same without having, someone to come and talk to about how your day was at work or what you're working on, your hopes, your dreams, your frustrations. It's hard not having that at home. So we might try to figure out how to incorporate that while still teaching you all about romance. That spit and polish on romance. But am I looking for anybody else? Not at all. I'm really not interested. My one and only is in a dark world right now, and I worry about her. I do worry about her. I do love her. And if I didn't love her, I sure as heck wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I know tomorrow I'd like to probably do some retro wrestling talk or maybe see about Save the World. We're going to squeeze in some retro wrestling at some point. I know a few of you have actually enjoyed the retro wrestling. And I know there's a lot of you that would love to hear some of those old stories from someone who was watching it when it was brand new and going on. So the hope is that y'all will continue to enjoy that. But in the meantime, I do need to sign off for the evening. It's getting dark out here, and I do need to start getting set up for work tomorrow. But in the meantime, for those of you out there that have those special loved ones in your life, don't take anything for granted. Keep them close. And, pay attention. Pay attention to the details. I know it might take you a moment whenever grief is hitting you and bad things are happening, but pay attention to detail because those details might save their life. Just like I hope that these details will save my wife's life. So now that I've said that, especially for my wife out there, if nobody has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you. Have a happy 24. Thank you.